HO Race fan. This is Kevin Vito Man 50. I'm going to do a little tear down on a car, kind of give you some ideas of some of the stuff that I've done over time. Been doing this over 40 years, so I just figured I'd give you little tips and of the trade of what I do. I'm not nowhere near a professional. I just figured I'd just give you guys some ideas of what I do. I'll have usually a flathead and Phillips head screwdriver handy. This has got them both. I got the tire remover and a tire installer, some tweezers, some fingernail clippers, a few array of sandpapers to do some stuff that I do. I've got plastic toothpicks, regular wood toothpicks, an ear swab, an eraser, and I got some crazy glue, some super glue. And I usually do with a pair of a lot thicker glasses. These are 300. See, they're kind of magnifying to what is done. I got some rubbing alcohol that I use. Then I went ahead and just in case, depending on if the brushes are nasty, the brushes on cars are extremely porous. So if you oil the car too much, they soak up too much oil. So what happens is the brushes are useless and slows the car down. So I got these in case I find that the brushes that are in this car are toasted. Wizard E85 Dynamics is what I usually use for everything. There is a couple different styles, but this is the one I use. They're real good. They're not extremely porous as the stock ones, but the stock ones are incredibly porous. I've been using Champion Racing Ultimax Racing Oil, the 920 on most of my cars. I've been using this for a while, and I trade off and on. I just bought another one, Labella 107, good stuff. I always go to the medium. That's what this is. It is the medium. I usually find it at a lot of train places. I go to Boardman Hobby here in Boardman, Ohio. Tom and Pete there are really good guys. Pete is very high-end guy when it comes to HO race cars or slot car information. He's very good. He knows a lot. So I talk to him a lot, and he gives me a ton of information. And a ballpoint pen is what I use too. Okay, well, let's get started. I got an AC Cobra Daytona. I haven't touched it for a while. I see it's kind of nasty. I try to keep my cars as clean as possible, but this one's kind of filthy. It's not been cleaned in a while, and I need to do some work on it. This is one of my older ones, not one of my original cars. I posted all my original cars before, but this car is dirty. You see the body needs a little bit of cleaning. And it's been, all the oil that's been slung around inside of it. I don't know if you can see all the oil and problem places. This is a number 8 chassis with a number 4 top, so it's decently pretty old. It is a Hong Kong car. Not extremely old, but this is a decently old chassis. Take the top plate off, screwdriver, pop it off, no problem. Just take the motor out, top plate, and as you see, it is filthy. Looks like I haven't been cleaned in years. Probably I over-oiled it at one time. Yeah, the brushes are, as you see, nasty. So we'll get them all cleaned up. Oh, and I forgot, paper towel. So that's the top. And as you see, it runs very freely. You see, I don't put a lot of oil on stuff. I try not to oil stuff into the oblivion. You oil it too much, it slows the car down and overheats it. Someone was saying they use 30. AFX says they recommend 30 weight motor oil. Not a big fan. I think it's too thick. See, not been oiled that much. I think it's too thick as stuff, and it's going to probably be terrible or a mess. This is probably a Johnny Lightning from way back. So we're going to put the white one goes back. We don't want the car running backwards. Car's not terribly over dirty. Back wheel still spin good. I don't see any anything in there that needs to be cleaned out. Any hair or anything. I try to keep my track above the ground. I have no cats or dogs. So any hair or lint, unless you're running it on carpet. I do not recommend running cars on carpet. So what we'll do is we'll take us some isopropyl alcohol. I got a jug for today. Dip the air swab in there. Just kind of go over the car a little bit. And you see it's pretty nasty. I'm pretty meticulous about how I keep my cars. I've taught my boys the same way. Try not to over oil them or anything. Get down in all the little nooks and crannies. But as you see, this car is, to me, it's disgusting. I feel terrible doing this now, but it's pretty much disgusting to me. Get down in all the little spots because any dirt or anything is what slows the car down. Okay. On top of the towel so you don't drip anything much more. Use the other side and work and clean the underneath. Unless there's any problems underneath the springs, because sometimes they do corrode up underneath here. Take them off and make sure you clean this off real good. Take them off, but since we're not doing a complete detail of the car because it's not that nasty, we don't really need to tear it apart too much. So I'm gonna leave the rear axle in. Seems like it runs free. Same with the front axle. We're not no problems there. It's just the car is nasty, filthy, nasty, dirty. Normally I would take the axle out, clean all the holes out where the axles go through. But again, I don't see any lint or anything, so we're going to leave that part alone. Oh, here goes a tire. We'll get that later. I'll pull this one off so I don't lose that one. But as you see, huge, huge difference. Okay. Now, the motor plate. Same thing. Clean it off real good. We'll soak the motor down because it'll kill it. Nasty. Look at that. That's one cleaning. Two cleaning. And three cleaning. Terrible. Same thing, dry it off real good. A lot of difference. Now, one thing I do that a lot of people don't do, they use an eraser on the bottom here. They take an eraser and clean it all off, which is fine. If that's what you want to do. First thing I do first, ballpoint pen, clean out the little grooves. See that? I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's the little grooves here between the two or three plates. Get all the heavy stuff out. One thing at two is the ballpoint pen straightens out these edges. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just by doing that alone, it's straightened out those rough edges. That could cut the top of those brushes pretty bad. You want to cut them a little bit anyways. I always like to do that. But let's see that all that dirt to come out of there. Look at that. It's all that stuff to come off of there. And that is dirt. That's not the pen. Then I take some sandpaper. I think this is like 500, or yeah, this I think is 500. And lightly, be careful on the where they solder together the motor parts together, and go over it and try to overlap the edges a little bit. What I found this does is if it breaks in a brand new brush, and it breaks in really quick. Just like I said, breaking a set of rings on a 53 Chevy. Oh. Go over, clean all the yucky yuck off of it. Being careful not to burn up any of the wiring that goes to the motor. Like I said, I do this just to kind of break in the brushes, or if they're got a lot of oil on them, sometimes that helps, cut that top layer off. I don't know if you can see, but it gives you like a look of, see, I kind of like to cut it a little bit. Puts like a little cut into it, almost like I said, like a cylinder on a motor or something like that. If you're ball honing or something, putting a little edge on it just to cut the rings a little bit better. There you go. Cleaning done. Now reassembling. Brushes. Let's see how good these brushes are, if they're any good. And they're kind of terrible. They're a little bit oily. I've seen guys take the brushes and put them in a set of tweezers. Oh, by the way, either I use a Frisbee, or we're using this here, which is the top of a shoebox, because the edges, you can't lose anything, springs, anything like that. One thing I like about using toothpicks, if you take any springs off the motor or the springs off of the pickups, put them on something like this, they won't go flying everywhere to Kingdom Come, and you won't lose them. That's pretty much why I got that stuff. Nice and clean. Let's see here. But I've seen guys take, like I said, take the brushes on a piece of sandpaper and just run them back and forth a little bit. To me, that's a pain in the arse. I won't do that. That's why I do the bottom of the motor, so it breaks them in that way. So let's do this. We'll put the magnets in first. Remember, white to the back on this car. Usually they're white. Sometimes they're red, blue, yellow front. I think it's blue back, or this one has just a stripe, but kind of remember where they go, so the car won't run backwards when you put it together. Put them in there. Take a toothpick, because it's not magnetic. You put a screwdriver in there, it'll pull the magnet out or bounce the car over Kingdom Come, and it won't be forever getting those back in. Now this works on magnet traction, any Pancake style motor, which this one is. That's what they call a Pancake motor. Now this is what they call a 2-lamb. It's got 2 lamb pieces. What they call those are lamb. Some of the newer cars, I don't know if you've noticed, are 3-lamb. That's why they're a little faster, like the 100th anniversary. And the 4 quadra-lamb was the race engine back in the day. I've got a couple of quadra-lambs. I think they stink, but that's my opinion. Let's get this back in here. Back in the day, to make my car faster, I used to take this paint off the side here and scrape it all off and sand it real nice all the way around. This one, that one, and that one. It actually made a huge difference. Then I would take, depending on the car, like this car, the magnets are pretty tight in there, so you can't really do much to them. But take a small piece of paper or like a matchbook cover or something, depending on how loose it is, and stuff it in there so it tightens the magnets to the motor, which helped out a lot. I've done a few cars, some of my race cars, where I actually dug the channel out here, whatever, depending on if it's a magnet traction, where it sticks down in the chassis, or non-magnet traction, like this one here, like an old Aurora, and dug these corners out and pulled the magnet closer to the motor. Just did it little by little, because too much, the motor will let them scrape it and it'll be worthless. And then put something behind it to shim it forward. It made a huge difference. A lot of guys thought I was cheating, which I was. Now, best way to put the motor I found: 2 fingernails on top of the magnets. Drop the motor plate straight down on this car. Bam. Now the best thing I found to oil them: front axle first. See, it's already got a little bit of oil on it, so use the oil that's already there. Then you want to do the center pin. Put a little bit of oil under the gear here. It'll absorb in. Same with this gear here. Just a tiny bit of little oil. It'll pull itself in. On brass, not a big issue. Just put them together. You can't really break them in, only by running them forever. That's what breaks all the brass in. Not a big, huge fan of brass, but it is what it is, I guess. It feels good. Put your plate clip back down. Always put it one side, clip it in the other, boom. Now, another trick is right underneath this plate, throw a little oil right there, right across the back of it, and then pull it in. And when you're done there, once you pull it in, anything extra, take off. A lot of times too, this one here, it'll get real tight on the motor, so you want to pull it up a little bit with a screwdriver. That helps a little bit too, to bend it straight up. That'll loosen up. The looser the car is, the better it runs. Like this car, she's pretty loose. She's old. Okay. Oil the rear end next. A little bit on the rear end, not much. Whatever's left over, that's a little much. Dab it on. Let it soak in for a second. Wipe it off. Same thing. Boom, boom, boom. What'll happen? It'll crown at the end of the gear, at the end of the pin. Gone. Wipe all that off too. There's enough in there. You don't need a ton. AFX recommends every 20 to 30 hours of use. That's probably about right. Again, axle first, both sides. Leave it a little bit on the tip. It doesn't have to be a lot. Hit the center. Wipe it off. Spin the axle. You'll see the oil crown on top of the center pin. Get rid of that too. Boom, boom, boom. Wipe it off. Done. Car's oiled. See? Probably no oil. Make sure the rear end's loose in there. Front end's loose in there. Good. Now, I've seen guys take their, like a Dremel tool with a wire brush and clean the brushes off. I use an eraser, sandpaper. As long as your track's clean, they won't be that dirty. Try to keep your track clean as possible. You shouldn't have an issue with that. And just throw the body back on the car. I don't know what happened to the original front flat gear, but I had to get a Phillips head to put in there. That's all you need. As soon as it does that, you're done. Another little trick, put it down. If it's a race car, loosen the body just a smidgen. That's about it. Let's see how, now I don't know if you can see that, but the body is loose on the frame. See that? That makes the car, when it goes into a turn, the body tends to shift to one side or the other. And what I find, I might be wrong, but it's done help for me. It puts a lot of the extra body weight on the outside tire, which actually holds the car into the turn. Should have done it for this, but I'm going to clean the body off real quick. Same thing, alcohol, clean the body off. There you have it. We'll find the other tire later, but just a touch. Put a little bit on the rim. This is a silicone tire I bought a long time ago that actually has the grooves on there. Pop it on there. Your tires grow when the car speeds up, especially if your car spins the tires. They grow and it shoots right off. There we go. I'll get, like I said, I'll find the other tire later and glue it on. But there you have it. There you go. Any other questions? I've used a lot like Slick 50. I've used a bunch of crazy stuff. My own concoctions here and there. AMS oil and everything. But I found anything that's not sticky, try not to get an oil that's real sticky to the touch. Now I've used wall, clipper oil. I've used it. It works real well. It's not real sticky. It is a little bit, but it's not super sticky. In a pinch, that stuff, it works real well. It's good for cleaning the car too. I've used it too on cleaning some of the bodies and kind of polishing up the bodies a little bit. That don't work too bad. But try not to find an oil that's real sticky. If you find it's real sticky, it's going to start getting hair, lint, anything that can stick to it, dust, dirt, any type of skin cells, anything that's going to attach to it. So try something like this, Champion Automax Racing Oil. A lot of guys use it for the larger cars, the 32nd and 24 scale cars. It's very thin. I mean, extremely thin. And another one, like I said, I use is this here, the Labelle 107. Same thing. It's extremely thin. Heavy oils don't work real well on cars. I've raced for, like I said, I've done this for 40 some years, and I found the thinner the oil, the better it is. I mean, silicone oil, synthetic oil works real well. Like this is synthetic oil. Try not to use too many paraffin-based oils. I found are not really the greatest sometimes, but this one here is a medium weight. This is, like I said, for like what I got for like a train. A lot of this stuff is for guys that use like for trains and stuff like that. But I found that this stuff works real well. And, like I said, for HO, SO, Lino, garden size scale model railroads. Okay, apply directly to the motor brushes and bearings. This stuff works real well too. There's a 55-minute maintenance video and lube for the Labelle if you want to order that off of it. I said I got this over at Boardman Hobby, and this I got at Route 93 out in Akron. Works real well too. Anything else, let me know.